Thank you guys for coming. I'm really excited about our panel today. I will quickly introduce myself. I'm Katie Hegarty. I'm from Lyft Ads. Many of you might not realize that exists, but we have an entire sales team dedicated to in-app media for our advertising partners using our first-party data. More importantly, I'm excited to introduce you to Talia and Daryl, who are both at Amazon, specifically on the Scribe product. So a quick shout out, downstairs there is a setup for the Scribe products, which I just interacted with. It's very cool. I like that it'll fit into my handbag. I like that it's got an eraser at the end of the pen. And I like that I can do Kindle and do notes in a meeting, which is pretty cool. So we're gonna talk about that for a minute. All right, so Talia, can you introduce yourself? Talk to us a little bit about the Scribe product for those who have never interacted with it.
Sure. Hi, everyone. Talia Solomon, interim head of brand for Kindle Scribe. It's been about a year and a wonderful year because we're introducing an entire new expression of how the Kindle product can show up in our customers' lives. And so ultimately, everyone knows Kindle as a reading device, and now we are introducing the Kindle Scribe, which is a digital notebook, plus still enables you to hold up to your 10,000 books. So really having all writing live in one place, whether it's your favorite authors or your own, in one really sleek and portable device.
All right, so Daryl, introduce yourself and tell me a little bit about how you and Talia are working together right now.
Sure thing. Morning, everyone. I'm Daryl Mascarenas, and I lead the creative organization in devices and services at Amazon. So look, Kindle's one part of our portfolio, a big part of it. Talia and I work closely together in launching new products. And in this case, we're launching a category. And so we collaborate quite closely to align marketing and creative for our customers.
Awesome. Okay. So Permission to Grow is the name of our panel. Talia, you came up with that concept, so shout out to you. Can you talk about what that means in the context of your work at Amazon?
Yeah, I mean, I love when a brand has a really strong foundation that you do have permission to grow on it. So I will always give the example of Quince. I don't know if you guys wear Quince cashmere and they sell all this luxury clothing. They now started selling wines. They have permission to do that because they've established their premise as we provide luxury products for less. So whether that's cashmere or wine, it makes sense. Similarly for us, the Kindle has always been about being your own mental sanctuary. So now that sanctuary has expanded, whether it's to read or to capture your own thoughts, that platform is flexible enough to extend to introduce writing and thinking in another way.
Okay. So this question is for both of you. Can I get a quick show of hands? Who owns a Kindle? Myself included. Okay, so we got a lot of brand awareness. We got a lot of brand adoption across the board. How do you work with an existing product or a suite of products like Kindle and create something new with Scribe while still giving a nod to Kindle, but creating a new niche for a brand like Scribe? Can you, Talia, or Daryl, start with that one.
Well, I think it was Karl Lagerfeld who said, you must adapt to the times because the times won't adapt to you. Mm-hmm. And I think that, writing is pretty adjacent to reading. And so while we're expanding into this new category, it's still quite familiar to the people that we're expanding to. And so I think that I don't think it was that big a shift. I think what we try and do is focus on what customers want from our products and also what the category demands. And you can see that, in the reading space, writing is becoming more important of a component. And we saw customers want that. And so our product teams made something that, really took the heart of what the Kindle brand is about and expanded it in a very meaningful way versus just like copying the competition. And that kind of makes it makes certainly coming up with creative concepts and telling that story much more authentic and easy for our teams to do.
And I think, there was a very intentional decision on the brand strategy side. And you will not see reading in any of our advertising. And in fact, our tagline that Daryl's team produced is, "What are you working on?" And essentially, it's supposed to be a double entendre of what are you working on, i.e., everyone is always working on something important to them, but you're also working on this device that enables you. And having that work message in there to kind of shift to this productivity use is very important for us. And it's just a strategic decision that typically, when you've established yourself for a core use case, you don't necessarily need to reestablish it. You need to introduce. So a hotel doesn't advertise, we have beds. It's like, yeah, we hope you have beds. You'll probably advertise your new pool or your new, food service menu. Similarly, we're advertising our new food service menu, and people know that we will always have books.
So on that note, Amazon is a expansive brand. So Daryl, when you think about how different consumers are interacting with the Amazon brand, and then think about that through the lens of Scribe, like, are there headwinds that you face with someone who's just using Amazon Prime and maybe doesn't know about Kindle, doesn't know about Scribe? Is that helpful to you that it's part of the larger Amazon ecosystem? Like, how do you kind of deal with that when you're thinking about positioning the marketing?
I think it's one of the most complex parts of my role because, we sit in devices and services where we compete with brands like Google and Apple, at price points that customers aren't really familiar or connect Amazon to. Like, the core value of Amazon is obviously speed, convenience, and price. And when you start introducing more expensive products, you really have to be true to what they are. Now, in terms of like headwinds, that's a headwind. It's really hard to do that when people associate your Halo brand, your main brand, with something significantly different. But I think what we try and do is like really honor the product. I think the product is really important. Why it exists is also really important. And then we obviously try and use the Amazon halo effect as a tailwind versus trying to like really step away from it, which some brands do. And to us, it's more like, I want a customer to feel like, wow, that's Amazon. I can't believe they made a product like this. And have people love that product and really like feel the way it connects to the rest of Amazon, which is something really special about our products and services. The kind of halo effect of Amazon enables much more, just even from how customers start to use our products and services.
And that inherent trust, I think, right? Like, you trust Amazon, and you trust that if it doesn't work out, that you can easily return it. So I think you just get that trust goes both ways.
And the authenticity, right, of the brand. So Talia, Scribe is leisure because it is that Kindle functionality and it's productivity. You're bringing it into meetings. You can use it to take notes. How do you balance that? Especially when, as Daryl, you're saying your competitors are positioning these products in very different ways. So how do you tell that story between the leisure and the productivity?
It's kind of what I alluded to earlier. We've just gone all in on productivity.
Mm-hmm.
I think everyone just associates us with leisure. And again, it will always be available in the device. But productivity is such a new muscle for us to flex and own that all of our advertising is going to reinforce that.
I want to add to that. I think, when you launch, particularly these bigger brands, when folks launch a product, they try and like make it everything to everyone. And they want to tick every single box. Yes. And we have that same problem at Amazon. You talk to some of the product people, they're like, well, we sell reading products as well. So, in your messaging and in your creative, make sure that you're not like, making reading look bad. But you got to stay true to the product and what its intention is and tell that story and trust that the customer's not stupid and really understands like why they're considering it in the first place. So our whole campaign, which is about to come out, very excited about it, is all about that process of like why writing and why productivity is important and how it's different when you use a Kindle product. We kind of looked at the competitive set and went all in on like the hustle and taking action versus just kind of dreaming about things. And our whole storytelling strategy is around that, which is, again, in turn, very true to what the product was designed to do.
So Talia and Daryl recently went to Australia to shoot the new spot, which is not yet ready for public consumption, but will be very soon, so keep your eye out for that. But I don't know if we have some photos maybe from the trip that we can share on the next slide. These are Daryl's photos. Darren, why don't you talk about this for a second? So this is part of the trip that they took to Australia. You have a creative background, which I think deeply informs the work that you're doing at Amazon now. But talk to us a little bit about some of these, because these are cool.
First of all, Australia wasn't my choice, even though I am Australian. But we shot in Australia with an awesome director. Turns out it's cheaper to shoot in Australia, which is absurd to me. America do better. It was a long flight, but essentially, we shot in different locations. We were tracking essentially what was the hero's journey of someone who grew up on a farm and then utilized, turned their ideas into process, which when she took action on them, made her successful, and it tracked from the farm to the city and all these different locations in between. I tend to like, the analog process of capturing photography, particularly in the age of AI. I really believe that taste is crucial. I think, some of the panels before touched on this, where, you're kind of investigating why you're shooting in these locations to begin with, and what's special about them. And so I use that as a tool to even inspire the teams to, really understand and bring out the specialness of why we're in Australia versus like the cool trip that we just took to shoot a spot.
Okay, so in that work, talk to me about visual consistency. And again, we're grappling with this idea of multiple products, a very large brand. Like, how do you create consistency with the visual aspect of these products while still, again, giving Scribe its own look and feel and kind of niche within that?
Yeah, it's really difficult. I tend to think about our product portfolio in a T-shaped kind of way, where horizontally we have to be uniform as a brand, otherwise no one will trust us. And so there are particular assets that are consistent across all our products. Like when you see it on the Amazon website or in a store, the CGI or like the photography, we try and keep that consistent. But then we go really deep in terms of what those products and what their stories are. And that's where, we kind of use this model of fixed, flexible and free, where there's freedom to investigate and really extrapolate why a product is special. And so the consistency is in the quality of the visuals and the creative that we produce, but the storytelling is very different, whether we're talking about Kindle or Alexa, whether we're talking about Fire TV or something that's completely new to world.
Do you want to add anything to that, Talia?
No, I think I agree.
Okay. Okay, so, and Talia, on that note, you have a background in psychology, consumer psychology. You have a deep interest in that. I think you've said that informs your marketing lens and your perspective on that. I think, here we go. Thank you for the slide master here. Talia's behavioral science inspiration. These are the books that you've read recently. Has anyone read any of these books in the crowd? Anybody? I think they might be available on Amazon, just a guess. Do you want to talk about any of these, Talia? What have some of these books taught you in terms of kind of how you're approaching your day-to-day job?
Yeah, I mean, these are books if you want like a crash course. I do have like an actual degree in psychology and consumer behavioral science. But these books can get you up to speed very quickly, so I often recommend them. But I think what I really leverage across all of the brands that I kind of work across is, obviously, when you think about marketing, there's feature benefits, which are really functional, like this for our Kindle, paper-like display, feels like paper. An emotional benefit, it's easy, accessible. I really love leaning into what we call the highest order benefits. And just for you guys to memorize, it's SSBAM: safety, status, belonging, autonomy, and mastery, like self-mastery. And those are actually the highest order human benefits that brands can really ladder up to if your brand is enabled. So I worked at Pizza Hut before. I joined Kindle. We didn't really have a highest order emotional benefit. Absolutely, convenience, speed, all of those things to fit into people's life and be emotionally available was important. But I think what's super exciting about Scribe to me is I think it really straddles two of these highest order benefits. One is self-mastery, right? We all want to improve ourselves. And the Scribe is a digital tool, but with a design of restraint. So there's no Slack, there's no pop-ups. You're actually your most focused self. Because I know I hate myself, how distracted I am. Like, I hate that I'm addicted to my phone. So the Scribe is enabling you to be your best self. And then we also think that there's really a nice status association with this device. Again, when you show up in meetings and you're just more present, that is typically the most senior and leaned in, and obviously, honestly, the most person that's most likely to advance. So there's that status association. And that's honestly why we're here. We're showing up in Cannes. We gift them out to Forbes 40 under 40. We want to show up in those spheres of influence and really produce that status contagion with this device.
And I love that, thinking about psychology and the idea of the emotional and the rational reasons why people buy products, right? There's a whole there's a whole science behind it.
There's a whole science.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you guys so much for coming.